There's no better education than getting out and seeing the world.
The experiences are what you're going to remember in the long run.
Getting out to see the world has just really opened my eyes to a lot of things.
I know a little bit about a lot of random things, and that's because of travel.
We're going to be able to learn so much about some really great destinations.
I'm excited about how this will improve our group itineraries.
I'm really looking forward to having great conversations about places. Welcome to Destination Dispatch.
Hello, I'm Jim Delleman with Group Travel Odyssey. Thank you for joining us once again for this excellent Destination Dispatch episode. We're going to one of my favorite places today, and that's Nashville, Tennessee. But before we get started, I want to remind you, if you have not done so yet, or if you just keep thinking about doing it, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on our YouTube channel. If you also ring the bell right by that subscribe button, you'll be notified anytime we have new content on our YouTube channel. As well as that, you can connect with us on LinkedIn, Group Travel Odyssey, and make sure to like our Group Travel Odyssey Facebook page as well. We have several media channels and several social media channels. We have all of our Destination Dispatch episodes. We have our Coach and Go episodes on our YouTube channel. So it's a great archive for you to go back and watch about some really fantastic destinations. Well, as I said, we're going to be heading to Nashville today. But before we bring on our guest, I do want to bring on our co-host today. He is the host of Destinations Beyond Expectations. Let's bring on Stevie G. Hey, Stevie.
What's going on, Jim? How are you?
I'm good. We're having a lovely heat wave here in New York. So, I know for those of you down in Florida, you're not having any sympathy with us at all. So
I know you were saying that you had like 3 days in a row where you were in the 90s, and I'm like, that's just we have the same thing. Same with us.
You're like that's spring.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but we get used to it, and just soon enough it's going to be cooling off again for the fall. At least here it will be in New York. So, but thanks for coming on again today. It's going to be the two of us. We're going to be a duo today because Keith is on the road visiting some fantastic destinations. So, hopefully he'll have some stories when he gets back as well. But so, Stevie, have you been? I'm assuming you have been. You have to have been to Nashville.
I have been to Nashville a handful of times in the past few years. Actually, I went twice this past November. Once for a group trip with some friends, and then once for a bachelor party that I was a part of, which is I'm sure we'll talk about bachelor and bachelorette parties a little bit maybe on the live stream today. But yeah, it's such a great destination. It's obviously a country music destination, right? But there's a lot more to it than that too, and I'm looking forward to getting into that. What about yourself? Tell me about your Nashville experience.
Oh gosh, I've been to Nashville many times. The first time I went was for a trade show. I've been to several trade shows there, but it really did surprise me because, as you said, it's known as the country music destination. However, there's so much more. It is amazing. The downtown scene is amazing. The music scene in general, the food scene, and again, as normal, we could talk about this forever and ever, but why don't we bring on the experts? Why don't we bring on somebody who can actually give us more information about Nashville? This is the Senior Tourism Sales Manager for Nashville Convention and Visitors Corp. Let's bring on Staci Flores. Hi, Staci.
Hi, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. We were just saying how much we absolutely love Nashville. Love you. I mean, you have a great job because your destination is, my gosh, there's so much going on. If people can't find something to love in Nashville, there must be something wrong with them because I mean, there's just so much to do. What is something that you think people just kind of, what's one of the biggest misconceptions about Nashville?
Well, I would think one of them, I think you guys kind of said it just a little bit before I jumped on, but that is that we are just country music. A lot of times when I'm speaking to clients or people that are trying to build an itinerary for Nashville, they make the comment that their travelers or their students don't like country music. And there are really so many other genres of music and experiences in Nashville, whether that be blues, jazz, rock, and you could get that in any part of Nashville, just going through the different neighborhoods and venues.
That's one of the things that I really enjoyed too. We, with one of the trade shows, we got to visit a lot of the honky tonks and stuff downtown, and it's just the music scene even there is just so eclectic and varied. You get some of everything. There's a great blues scene. There's great country, of course. There's rock. It's amazing. There's music for everybody, and then with the addition of the Country Music Hall of Fame and everything that's offered there and the convention center that's right there, it is really like one of the most perfect places and destinations for a convention and a conference. So congrats.
Thank you. I have to agree.
So go ahead, Stevie.
Well, I was going to say, we talked about, I'm sure we'll talk about music some more. It's such a big destination for music, but one thing that I love is food, and I know Nashville is a great foodie town. You guys got Nashville hot chicken and some great, local restaurants that do that. Can you tell us a little bit about like the Nashville food scene and what groups can do if they're looking to get a taste of Nashville?
Yeah, of course. Well, our food scene has blown up over the past few years. Just in the past 2 years, we've had over 200 new restaurants open, and of course, most of those years were during COVID. But we have like you had mentioned, the Nashville hot chicken was created here, and there's a great story that goes along with that. But we have your Southern cuisine, your meat and three type of options, but we also have a lot of chef-driven restaurants and just different cuisines to choose from. And all of those different experiences could be found in all of our neighborhoods. We have over 20 neighborhoods in Nashville. A lot of people kind of focus on downtown or Opryland area, but if you kind of explore all the small little neighborhoods, you'll find your Thai food, your Indian food, of course, American, Italian. So really all of the different foods you could try, all in Nashville.
Wow. That, I love the fact that it has really kind of blown up into that foodie scene, because, with everything else that was going on there, it's just, a lot of times people are like, oh, they hear about the hot chicken, but then what else is there? And oh my gosh,
Right. I mean, and of course, barbecue. I
Yes.
Barbecue when I was thinking of all the other things, but barbecue is a great option. And so you can build your itinerary, making sure you try all of those. And I'll get into a little bit more on one of our newest venues that has all of that under one roof. So,
and we have a message from one of our user members. Staci Berry says, "Hey friends, I love hearing great things about my city." So thank you for joining us today, Staci, as well. Staci's with Share in the South, one of our GTO community members. And again, there's so much, and I know we have a limited time to talk about everything that there is to do in Nashville, but I would say for groups that are coming in, can you tell us about the ease of people coming in, or the ease of group travel into your area?
Yeah, of course. So in general, if we look at the macro level, before jumping into, just getting around Nashville, but the ease of coming to Nashville, I love the old stat that we had, and I don't even know what the stat is in recent days with migration to the South and Florida, Tennessee, and all the others, but 40% of the U.S. population lives within 600 miles of Nashville. We're just centrally located, so we are a great stop on through other destinations, or just a tour destination within itself. So it makes it great for motor coaches to have an overnight here if they're, going north, or a lot of times groups will stop in Nashville on the way to one of the other major Tennessee cities, Chattanooga, Memphis, Pigeon Forge, all of those. So, and then when we're looking at flights, we have over 97 nonstop destinations that we service. That is a historic peak for BNA International Airport. So just between those two, between flying or driving, I think we're a very accessible destination. And then once you're in Nashville, motor coaches really could pick up, drop off at all of the lower Broadway areas. There's not as much parking options as there used to be, especially with all the construction, but definitely we understand the importance of group travel. And so we have, any attraction will give you an idea of where to pick up, where to drop off, and make it easy for your tour directors.
And Staci, do I remember this right, that the Nashville airport's also getting an upgrade? They're expanding as well.
Yes. So kind of funny you say that. We were already in an expansion. It was called the B&A Vision. And then I think when we were in your offices a month or so ago, we just found out that they're extending that expansion and renovation. So the airport already has added another terminal. They're working on a hotel at the airport, a Hilton Airport property. And they've added numerous restaurants, similar to what you'll see throughout downtown Nashville, Midtown, and all of those. Those are all now at the airport as well. So if you didn't get your chance to try hot chicken or maybe one of the local burger joints, a lot of those are at the airport. The final, I think, phase of that should be done in, I believe it's 2025, but there's already a lot of change now. You'll see it when you go into just the second you step into the airport. And then much more live music if you can't believe it. If you didn't get your music fixed while you're in Nashville, you'll get it at the airport in multiple locations.
That's fantastic. And I mean, honestly, make the experience from the time you arrive until the time you leave totally immersive in Nashville. So I mean,
exactly. Yes.
What a great idea. What a great idea. So what can you tell me about the walkability of downtown? Are there a lot of things for our groups to do when they're in that downtown area?
Yes, so a majority of our museums are in the downtown location. I would say if you were going from maybe your furthest destination to the other, at the most, it would be a 15-minute walk. But for most attractions, one to the next is more like 2 blocks average. All of our major museums are in downtown Nashville. So we have the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, which, of course, you had talked about. Country music is one of our major genres. We also have the new National Museum of African American Music. That just opened up a little over 2 years ago now. And it is a 56,000 square foot facility. Wow. And it focuses on African Americans and the role that they have played in all genres of music. And then we have the Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum, and that focuses on your session artists and people recording behind the scene. So those are 3 major museums. Not to mention the individual Johnny Cash, Patsy Cline, Glenn Campbell. Those are all just museums. So then you get into other attractions, Ryman, Auditorium, Goo Goo, Chocolate Co. The list kind of goes on, but I'll stop there so I don't talk more than you ask questions.
I mean, there's so much to do in a walkable range, like we said. Is there anything that comes on your radar as something that you think more groups should be doing on their itineraries of maybe the things you mentioned, or maybe something you didn't bring up quite yet?
I know that one thing I always recommend, and that could be a group, that could be friends or family coming to visit, is a lot of people take in a lot of time just bar hopping or honky-tonk hopping from one music venue to the next. But Nashville is known for having the largest songwriting community in the world. And so I try to tell people to take in a songwriting experience, a songwriting session at the Listening Room Cafe. Really, they're all over town. They have experiences now. The Commodore Cafe at one of the Vanderbilt hotels. If anyone has heard of the show Nashville, which used to be on ABC, the Bluebird Cafe is kind of what highlighted that songwriter experience. But there's a lot of venues that you could get that same experience, but you don't have to wait in line for 2 hours before or sitting on line 2 weeks before to get those tickets. Yeah. It's just pretty personal. It gives you an idea of why Nashville is known for being Music City, and it really highlights the person behind the song. So I would 100% agree to go to acoustic show.
And there's a great chance that they may hear tomorrow's big hit before anybody else does if they experience a lot of these, smaller venues like that.
Yep, you nailed it. Half the time you finish this show and you're like, why haven't they already been signed? But of course, I mean, it takes a while and there's so many people wanting to do the same thing. But I went to the listening room and the songwriter for Lone Star was performing, and you don't even know what you're going to get on any given night. So you kind of almost feel like you won the lottery, because I just went and bought a $5 ticket, for admission. And then of course, a lot of times venues give it back to the artist. So that $5 goes to all the artists on stage. So I love that as well.
And at that point, they could use that because they're just starting out in a lot of cases. So, but also that keeps people coming back to these venues too, because if you don't know from night to night who may be coming in and who you may be hearing from, it gives you all the incentive that you need to continue to come back and hear these emerging songwriters.
Yep, agreed.
Oh, great.
Staci, as a sports fan, one of my favorite things about Nashville is I think your arena is in the best location for any sporting arena. It's right there on Broadway, but you guys also, and I know actually on Preds games, the whole city comes out and it's a really great atmosphere. You guys also have the Tennessee Titans and an MLS team as well now. Can you talk a little bit about the sports scene in Nashville and how groups can maybe experience that?
Yeah. As you you kind of just sold it for me. You made it easy for me. We are a sports city, and if anything, it's growing. There are talks of getting a new stadium, a new NFL stadium. But for now, yes, the Tennessee Titans play at Nissan Stadium. We have the Preds that play at Bridgestone Arena, and when that's not being used by our NHL hockey team, there are multiple concerts and festivals throughout the year, and that is smack dab in the middle of downtown. So it's a great location, and you could grab dinner before and then go to a Preds game. And then we have the new Geodis soccer stadium, and that is probably a mile and a half from downtown. So it's all very centrally located. One of the things I think is great for groups is going to one of our Sounds baseball games. So the Sounds are a minor league team. They probably, actually the other day there was a stat that came out, they have one of the highest attendance ratings for a minor league because they're just, it's an overall fun environment. There are kind of food activations throughout the stadium. There's a lot of fun outdoor games for families. And then for groups, they actually have an outdoor patio area where you can include your, hot dog and hamburger meal. You're in the outfield area with kind of park benches and just kind of a fun picnic experience, but you're at a Sounds game. So, and that's right there in Germantown, half a mile from Lower Broadway downtown area.
Wow, that's great. What can you tell us about accommodations as far as the group travel scene goes? Are people staying downtown? Do they stay in the outskirts?
That all depends a little bit on what the group is looking for. Of course, we all know that rate is the most important thing. And luckily with our inventory, our hotel inventory coming online, I would say that it's helped us to stabilize our rates. So if groups are flexible, they'll find a rate that they need. Of course, like I said, it depends on their itinerary. So if it's an overnight group and maybe they're coming through Nashville on the way to another destination, a lot of the times the groups like to stay at the Opryland area because they will go to an Opry show, go to dinner, take in that Nashville experience, and then continue on. Midtown is another great area if you want your group to be a little bit outside of the downtown scene, a little bit decreased of a rate, but you're still in the mix of it all and you're in walking distance to eateries and attractions. So it all depends, but in general, I would say that we have hotel accommodations to accommodate any group, whether that be boutique, price sensitive, national brands, all of the in between. So it's just about reaching out to us at the Nashville CVC and making sure that we provide the right list of hotels for you or requesting that on your behalf.
That's great.
You brought up Opryland, so I'll try to ask one more question here before we go to our second half of the show. I think many people might not realize how much there actually is to do in the Grand Ole Opry and the Opry Mills Mall and that whole area. Can you maybe just talk about, that experience and all the stuff that's out there?
That whole area over there? Yeah, of course. So, that area, and it still is termed Music Valley, but it's now kind of coincided with Opryland area because Opryland and the Opry Mills facility have just kind of taken over and provided so many offerings for travelers. So Gaylord Opryland alone itself is, we talk about as kind of being a cruise ship on land because you can really stay in the hotel and never have to leave. There are so many different food outlets. There is now a luxury water experience, 3-level luxury water experience, indoor, outdoor. So it's year round. And they offer events throughout the year like Country Christmas. But like you said, as far as the entire area, there's Opry Mills, which is a large outlet mall. In that it also has a food court, a bunch of different standalone restaurants. It's right across the street from the General Jackson showboat. So that's where the boat docks and it takes off and it returns. And then we have a lot of dinner shows in that area as well, in the Music Valley area. And then, of course, the highlight is the Opry House, and that is where the Grand Ole Opry performs 3 nights a week, if not more, just depending on time of year. So that area alone, you could spend a few days. And like I said, everything at Gaylord Opryland, people don't have to leave if they don't want.
That's wonderful. That is great. We're going to continue the conversation, but first, Stevie's going to give us a couple words from some of our partners.
Group Travel Odyssey would like to take a moment to thank our amazing partners, including Book My Group, Travel Advocates, We Travel, Broadway Inbound, and Fly My Group. These partnerships help make business without boundaries possible, and we encourage our viewers to learn more about these wonderful companies. Now, back to Destination Dispatch.
Thank you for that, Stevie. Well, what we want to do now is we have a sample itinerary that we are going to bring up and kind of walk through everything that there is to do on this sample itinerary. This whole itinerary is in GTO already. So if you go to your template trips, for those of you who are GTO members, go to your template trips and look under Nashville and you will find this one here. Also, if you look in Supplier Manager, you can find this whole wonderful, very visual document that she has given us with all of the information about student travel in general. And there's also one for adult travel. So those are also listed in GTO for you. But what we will do, let me go ahead and pull this up here. And we're just going to go ahead and start then. Let me go to day one. So Staci, let's see. We are going to start day one by going to the zoo.
All right. Yes. And you'll see as I go through this itinerary that there are multiple options on some.
Right.
One thing we want to do is not just suggest this is what you need to do and only that. We really want, even in an itinerary suggestion, to customize it to your group. If it's a student group that's coming for performances, they're going to be looking for a few different items on their itinerary than an educational group. So just wanted to say that from the beginning. But the Nashville Zoo, it's in Southeast Nashville. It actually introduced a really great Andean bear exhibit a few years back. I went there myself, and the bear, I think, was within 100 feet of me. Of course, a big glass in between, but it was just kind of crazy to see this beautiful bear exhibit and learn about the Andean bear. And then recently, they just, and within the last week, released a new exhibit on the house that is located on property and the history of the enslaved individuals that used to live there, really just to give homage to the history of the people that were on the property before it became a zoo. And there's a lot of other, as we kind of go through this itinerary, I'll point out here and there, but a lot of other attractions that have history as well that are great to add to a civil rights itinerary. Fantastic. Civil rights and African-American history, sorry.
Great.
Well, I kind of jumped right into it, I guess, with
that's okay.
National Museum of African-American Music. And for short, just so everyone knows, if you're ever reaching out, we refer to it as NAMAM because it is a very long museum name. But as I mentioned earlier, the museum is 56,000 square foot facility. It's huge. It is very interactive, especially for student groups. You get a wristband, and as you go to the museum, you can kind of play around with different interactive stations that one of the really cool ones, I think it's called the Influencers Wheel, and you could click on an artist, and then you could see who has influenced them and their work. And then you could click on that artist, and you'll continue to go through, and it kind of takes you through history. But if at any point you want to download a song, you simply kind of add it to your wristband, and at the end they will email you that full list of music.
Wow.
And the cool thing is students are getting, or individuals in general are getting, a list of music from all genres that they've just learned about at the new museum. And so it's great. There's a lot of different stations where you could learn to dance from all the different genres, I believe starting at the 40s or 50s all the way through the 2000s. Learn to create your own beat, sing with the gospel choir. So very fun experiences there. And that's located at 5th and Broadway, the new entertainment complex.
That sounds amazing. And then, of course, after you've done all that, you're working up an appetite.
Yeah, and so I'm glad we are talking about Assembly Food Hall, because this is what I mentioned, where you can get everything under one roof. So Assembly Food Hall is a little different than your normal mall food court that you would experience. There are no larger, like Subway, McDonald's type of franchise names, but instead we have our 50%, I would say, if not more, is unique to Nashville. So that's going to be your pharmacy burger, or your Princess Hot Chicken, Coco's Italian, which is a family-owned Italian restaurant that normally you'd have to travel to West Nashville. But of course, when you're on a coach, you can't decide where you want to go and have a different dinner from everyone else. So being at Assembly Food Hall, I could get what I want, Stevie could get what he wants, and Jim could get what he wants. And we're all happy. And, come to a large table and sit and eat together, but we're all trying our own cuisine. So it's great.
That's fantastic. What a great idea. And then when you're done there, we can go ahead and start planning some stuff for the evening.
Yep. So then we talked about jumping over to the Opryland area, or Music Valley. So a lot of times groups will like to take in some form of shopping. We all like our retail therapy a little bit. So Opry Mills offers a lot of great discounts. It's student friendly. And there are different kind of experiences throughout. So one of those would be Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. Madame Tussauds is located at Opry Mills, and it is the only Madame Tussauds that is a music focused theme. So a lot of the Madame Tussauds, if you've ever been to other ones, they have celebrities, whether that be actors, actresses, and sports, or whatever celebrity, but in general, this one is all music focused. So the different rooms are different genres of music, and then the finale room is going to represent the Grand Ole Opry and all of our Opry members. So students could jump on the stage and take photos with the different artists, and it's just really cool. And also those wax museums kind of freak me out with how real they look. But yeah, you could touch them, you could take pictures, all of that. So it's really fun and interactive.
Cool. That's great. And you also, of course, on there, the Grand Ole Opry itself.
Exactly. So the Grand Ole Opry is steps away from Madame Tussauds. You don't even have to jump back on the bus. It's all in that same complex. So very convenient. So you walk over to the Grand Ole Opry. The show is offered, like I said, 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And there's even more offerings in the summertime. But the great thing about the Opry is you're going to get a sampling of quite a few different artists within that, couple hour experience, because you'll normally have some type of bluegrass, you'll have some type of contemporary artist, you might have a little throwback. So there's kind of going to be a mix of things. And the great part is that for some reason you're not feeling that artist, they're normally playing 2 to 3 songs, and then it's the next artist. So it's a great show, a lot of variety, and it's a live recording. So you'll see the light go on that says we're live, and when you need to, clap or whatever that may be, but it's kind of a fun experience that that this is a live recording.
Fantastic. And they take you on a tour afterwards, or you can do a tour backstage after?
Exactly. So that is an add-on if you'd like, and you could go backstage and you could see kind of where the artists kind of congregate, almost like a family room area. Before the show, you go to the individual dressing rooms, and you could see there's like a dress room for your first time performance at the Opry. Then there's a dressing room for ladies of country, and all these different themed rooms. And so artists get to pick which room they want to stay in, of course, probably based on seniority. Wow. So I'm sure Garth Brooks would be able to pick over one of the upcoming artists. But yeah, you get to pick where you want and where you feel most comfortable and kind of what inspires you. And so they kind of take you through all that. I think one of the fun facts that I always love about the Opry is they park themselves. There's no valet. There's no special experience. Like the artist, like one of the Opry, is just like hanging out with friends.
Wow.
And so they park themselves. They walk in a back door and they check themselves in. You know, it's kind of like parking your car at your own house. But it is very laid back behind the scenes, even though, you know, in front of the stage it looks very put together, professional and live. I mean, it's just all of them coming together and hanging out and singing some music to friends.
That's great.
That's very cool. Yeah.
It's really cool. Yes.
I love it. Well, then of course they're going to need some sleep. So they've slept. Now we're going to day 2. So
Yep.
how are we starting off the second day?
Our second day, we're starting off with a little bit of history, which will be at Andrew Jackson's Hermitage. So he is the 7th president. And at Andrew Jackson's, you get to tour the outside grounds as well as inside the home. And it's curated to look just like as it would when Andrew Jackson lived there. They do have some on-site experiences, some interactive experiences, and I believe those were kind of frozen during COVID, but we're getting out of those times. So I think they expect that to come back this fall. But those will be, there's a duel that every 30 minutes that the students could take in, and that's just really fun to see play out. Yeah.
I love that. I love it. And then what we're doing after that, we're going to be taking a little cruise.
Exactly. So we will be heading back. Andrew Jackson's Hermitage is about 5-10 minutes from Opryland area. And I will just note that everything is within about a 15-minute triangle. So there's the Opryland, Music Valley area, downtown, and the airport. And so I kind of always describe Nashville as a triangle without getting into, you know, West Nashville. And I'll talk a little bit about that later in the itinerary. But so we're just heading right back, not too far off, back into Music Valley area. And that is where the General Jackson showboat departs and comes back to. But this boat cruise will take you down the Cumberland River, and it will make a U-turn right at our beautiful skyline view. So it'll take you all the way down to downtown Nashville. There's a lunch or a dinner option. And so, of course, for this itinerary, it would be a day option. And then right at the turnaround point, they'll have all of the guests go out and take photos and kind of take in that beautiful Nashville downtown skyline view until they make their way back to the Opryland area. And along that way, you will take in a variety show. So this is a performance show. It's really great, really well curated, and all groups, all ages will enjoy it.
Great. And if they weren't going to do that, then you have other options for them.
Of course, yeah. So as I mentioned, a little bit of a triangle, and there's so much to do. It really just kind of depends on what your group wants. Do they want to take in a little more history or a show? So the historical part or learning more about Tennessee would be going to the Nashville Farmers Market and the Tennessee State Museum. The Tennessee State Museum is a little over 2.5 years old as well. It is a free museum, so there is no charge for admission. The only thing that they ask is that, of course, you give them a heads up so that they can give you directions on where to drop off and pick up, and then hopefully they will have a docent on staff to kind of guide the group if they have any questions. But it is right next door to the farmers market, so you could take in lunch at the farmers market. Once again, a variety of cuisines. There's some cool little local boutiques. And then a few steps away is going to be your Tennessee State Museum. Great views of the Capitol, and all within, I think, about a 15-minute walk from downtown. If your group does something in downtown after, or is coming from downtown from another museum.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then we're going to the Belmead Historic Site.
Yes, exactly. So as I mentioned, there's that triangle, and a little bit. If you go a little bit further than that downtown triangle, you will be in Southwest or West Nashville. And West Nashville has a lot to offer. I think sometimes itineraries miss out on going to the West Nashville area that has Belmead, Cheekwood, Loveless Cafe, and all those great offerings. But Belmead is a historic site where they used to train thoroughbred horses. So you learn about the history of their horse training. You could take a tour of the outside grounds as well as tour the mansion. Normally they'll have a few different exhibits throughout the year. So I know at one point they had, a few years back, like they had all of the attire from Downtown Abbey. But any given time you'll see some different exhibits. It's a beautiful just sight on any given, spring or fall day. Today it would be nice. It would just be hot and a little humid.
I hear you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And then, oh my gosh, dining family style at Loveless Cafe.
Yeah, so when I talked about our Southern cuisine, it doesn't get much better than Loveless Cafe. Right when you sit down, they just drop plates of hot biscuits, and there are, I think, 3 different preserves to choose from. I don't even know which one's my favorite between the peach and the strawberry and the blueberry, but it's delicious. So, and then
I have had those biscuits, and oh my gosh. Yeah.
I even have to tell myself, okay, I'm only going to have 2 before the meal starts, and then I'm like, oh man, I had 2, and your mouth is still watering, and you're like,
yeah.
And they seriously like drop it, I think, within 30 seconds of you sitting down. But you try not to throw yourself on that because, of course, it's family style, and they bring around all these delicious, whether it's roasted turkey or fried chicken or roast beef, all of the good things, and of course all of the sides. So that's at Loveless Cafe. And the cool thing about Loveless Cafe is once you're done dining there, you could still experience the grounds, because it was a motel that has now been converted into kind of little individual shops. So you could go into one of the shops and they actually serve a lot of the Loveless Cafe condiments and items. So you could take home preserves, you could take home biscuit mix. And then you could go into the other little boutiques and they have like a jewelry place. And I think there's even a shipping, like a FedEx or UPS or something. I don't know who would need to ship right after, unless you're shipping out all the biscuit mix that you just bought. So I guess it all just came around to me and made sense. But yes.
I love it. So then after that, there's a lot of possibilities. Tell us about some of these productions that you guys
right
have.
And to be honest, this list is we're updating our profiles as we speak, but there are just a lot of different dinner options, and really it will be custom to the group, of course, whether it's an adult group, a student group, but we kind of just wanted to list all the different options. The students could take in a show at Tennessee Performing Arts Center. If it was an adult group, some of them like to go to Ray Stevens Cabaret Showroom, which is in West Nashville. The Nashville Nightlife Theater, that's going to be in Music Valley. We have a show that's attributed to Elvis. So it really just depends on what your group is looking for. The Nashville Symphony always has an array of great offerings throughout the year. Sometimes they even have where the symphony will perform a score to one of our, movies that we've grown up with, like Home Alone. So, I mean, the night options are kind of whatever you want to make of it.
Wow. It's such a huge variety of things to do. That's fantastic. Oh, goodness. Now we're going back to bed. And then when we wake up for day 3.
And I highly suggest staying through a day 3. I know sometimes groups try to take in Nashville in 2 days, and you really will miss out. Because as you see, you'll still have a lot to experience. So yes, day 3, you will start at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. And as I mentioned, if for some reason your group is not a country music fan group, then of course there's the Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum. So just keep that in mind. There's always something. But the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum will normally have a few rotating exhibits as well as permanent exhibits. And this is located in downtown Nashville. And with the Country Music Hall of Fame, you can add on the historic RCA Studio B experience. It is an add-on to your Country Music Hall of Fame. But RCA Studio B is where Elvis recorded over 200 of his songs. And then, of course, there's a lot of other artists that we all know and love. Dolly Parton, the Everly Brothers. I mean, really, if you walk into RCA Studio B, there's just a timeline of all the different artists that range from the very beginning to like your Texas kind of, dirt road country, or your Waylon Jennings, your 70s, things like that. But historic RCA Studio B, I will say, even for students, I feel like they're all going to know the songs, kind of like connect maybe what they've heard from their parents or grandparents. every time I go, and I've been, I would say at least now over 50 times, I hear probably that's a low number, but I hear a new story, a new fun fact. The docents are just great at giving you that personal experience and kind of almost making you feel for a moment like if you can imagine Elvis was in the room. And I will tell you that the greatest thing about that attraction is all of the instruments are original other than the drum kit. And one of the original instruments is going to be the piano that Elvis played on. You can literally sit down at the piano that Elvis would sit down, play, or kind of warm up, and you're sitting there touching the keys that Elvis touched. A few other hands have touched it since, but
that's so cool though.
It is really cool. And then they kind of take you back to, so Elvis really liked to record with different lights to just kind of set the mood and kind of set his energy and tone. And so they'll kind of talk through some of those and how when he performed gospel, which is what he performed a lot of, and one of the awards he received was in gospel music. He would like to play with or sing to blue lights, so they'll dim all the other lights but the blue lights. And then one of the songs, he really couldn't figure out which light felt right, and then he thought, this song I kind of feel lonely, so he recorded in complete darkness. And those are just tidbits. I don't want to give away too much because you need to take in the experience for yourself. But yes, RCA Studio B is a must.
That's amazing. Gosh. So then, as if we need more, my gosh. But what else are we doing after that during the day?
After that, we are going to head to Wild Horse Saloon, where your group will learn how to line dance. And when you could also take in your barbecue. So, I mean, the Wild Horse Saloon has so many different group menus to choose from. I believe there's about 10. And all of them are just really delicious. I think I've tried almost all of them. It's always, their team is on point. They know how to, get a group in and out within an hour, hour and a half, or whatever the group needs. But within that, they will always make sure that there is a line dancing lesson for the group. And so there will be a teacher, and they will take the group through a full song and teach them how to line dance.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing. That's truly amazing.
Really cool. And that is in downtown Nashville. So as I mentioned, the Country Music Hall of Fame is, then we have the Wild Horse, and then next would be the Ryman, where we're heading to after lunch, and that's all in downtown. So once the bus drops you off, there's really no need to get back on the bus in between that.
And the Ryman, my gosh. Tell us a little bit about the Ryman for those people who don't know, and I can't imagine people don't know much about the Ryman, but tell us about some of the history with the Ryman Auditorium.
Yep. So the Ryman Auditorium started as a tabernacle. Captain Ryman, which is what the auditorium was renamed after in his honor. But he kind of came to almost, there was back in the day, I don't even want to get on dates, so I'll get the wrong date, but I'm not the best historian. But Nashville was exporting and importing all these different things because it is located on the Cumberland River. And so with that comes some evening fun and drink. And so there was a tabernacle that basically was saying that this isn't what the city needs, and we need to stop all this. And so Captain Ryman basically went to the tabernacle to say, like, what are you doing here? And instead he was, so to speak, saved. And he decided to turn the tabernacle into the Mother Church of Country Music. And so really just invested his time in this church and this community. And the Grand Ole Opry, it first began performing at the Ryman Auditorium, which is how it got its name, the Mother Church of Country Music. And then later in years after Captain Ryman had passed, they renamed it Ryman Auditorium in his honor. But just kind of a funny story how he wanted to go tell these churchgoers, that we didn't need any telling what to do in Nashville and in that time, and instead he was saved.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. But yeah, that's definitely a must see.
That was in a nutshell, but and without dates.
I love it. So in the afternoon, after Ryman Auditorium, we're going to be doing.
We are going to head.
One of the most unique things I think I've ever seen in my life. I love it.
It's unique, and people sometimes don't understand why it's in Nashville. But to give a little background on that, Tennessee was holding its centennial celebration, and so they had asked all the different cities to bring some type of art installation or exhibit to this festival. And so Nashville was known as the Athens of the South, and so Nashville decided to build a temporary replica of the Parthenon to represent Athens. And the city loved it so much that once the centennial celebration had ended, the residents didn't, or the locals didn't want it to be torn down. And so instead it was rebuilt as a standing permanent installation in Nashville. And so the Parthenon sits there in, Vanderbilt, kind of like Midtown area. It is the exact full-scale replica of the Parthenon. But once you go through the doors of the Parthenon, there is a huge 40-plus foot statue of Athena, gold-plated statue, and it is absolutely beautiful, breathtaking, and you just feel this small because you're looking up at it, and it's so much detail on that as well. So the Parthenon is a really cool experience.
That's amazing.
That's what, yep. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I love that. I just love that it's there. It's amazing.
And then if you've gone down to the basement, there's a full art gallery in the basement as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've gotten that far, but yeah, that's located at Centennial Park. And Centennial Park was just recently renovated. There's some cool historical statues. There's a nice walking trail, and Centennial Park offers a lot of just free live music experiences throughout the year. One of them is Musicians Corner, where they have local artists that perform every Thursday night with food trucks, and it's very family oriented, very fun, and all ages.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Then go ahead, Stevie.
No, just nodding my head and acknowledging.
Okay. And then we have probably I find this whole Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum so incredible that they've done this. I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of similar to what I said earlier about the songwriter community. The songwriters are kind of behind the scenes. The Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum is the same thing. It honors all of the artists that contribute to music. And so it really focuses on what you would call the session players, or the people that perform on your recorded, CDs or cassettes or things of that nature. And so the way that the museum is set up is it's organized by different cities in the U.S. and what music has come out of those cities, whether it be Motor City or, kind of like your Beach Boys music from the West Coast, California. And so you go through different cities through the U.S. and learn about what music was created and produced. Wow.
That's great. The unsung heroes of the music industry, definitely, because they're backing up all the headliners, and now you can find out more about them.
Exactly. Yep. And of course, interactive experiences there where you could play with the drum kit and kind of learn how to play the drums, and some other fun interactives along the way.
That's great. That's great. Or if they're doing something a little bit different, they can go to Cheekwood Estate and Gardens.
Yep. So if we're, like I said, talking about a nice spring or fall afternoon, and you've taken in enough museums, or your group just wants some outdoor time, Cheekwood Estate and Gardens is a great place to do just that. So you tour the estate, both indoor and outdoor. Indoor is the mansion, and it's where the Cheek brothers lived. The estate has I believe it's over 7 different gardens. There's a Japanese garden that was just renovated a year and a half ago. There is an herb garden. They have different times of the year they actually will curate to the season. So in spring they have tulips. In fall they do a fall harvest where they have a couple pumpkin houses and pumpkins throughout the property. And then in the holiday season they do something called lights, and that's where they have over 1 million lights across the property. And you go in the evening time and you just walk through all these Christmas lights, and they have live reindeer, they have carolers, they have s'mores, and it's just a really fun experience. Bundle up, of course, because it's a little bit colder, but it's worth it to see the lights reflect off the lake, and it's fun. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And how are we going to close out our trip to Nashville?
All right. So, I mean, basically, you're going to end the evening with some type of group dining. So, Gino's East unfortunately closed during the pandemic, but we, like I said, we're updating this profile as we speak. Right. That's why you always reach out to your CVBs for the updated list. But like I said, whether it's Wild Horse Saloon, Hard Rock Cafe, Jimmy Buffett's, any of those, all of them have group menus, Assembly Food Hall, where you could go and just pick what you'd like to eat. And then sometimes groups like to do one more experience before they send those students off to bed. And so there is our Nashville Ghost City Tour, and you learn about some little spooky facts and some fun ghost stories in downtown and kind of throughout. We also have our Soul of Music City night tour with Old Town Trolley. So if you don't want to, if it's not Halloween season or your group doesn't want to get spooked out, you could just take a city tour on one of the Old Town Trolley tour buses, and some type of artist will come on and perform. So you might have a singer, you might have someone that is a songwriter and does more of your piano, or you might have someone that comes on and brings their acoustic guitar, but it'll be some type of musical artist as they give a tour of Nashville.
That's fantastic. Well, you know, I know this is a 3-day itinerary, but as you can see, there's so much more that you can do, that you can do many more than 3 days if you want to. And I know you were saying some people like to do 2, but I think 3, my gosh, 3 would give a perfect, you know, intro to everything that Nashville has to offer. But my gosh, you could do it an entire week. You can do an entire trip there. So, you know, thank you for sharing all of this with us. And if people want more information, how can they get in touch with you? Where should they go to get more information from you?
Well, one, our website is a great resource. So if you have any, you know, if you need any quick stats or quick itinerary suggestions, definitely check out visitmusiccity.com. But there is also a travel trade section, and that lists my information, my colleague, Luana, and also our international sales, our VP of tourism, Laurel Bennett. So all 3 of our information is on there, visitmusiccity.com. My email is Staci, that's Staci with an I, at visitmusiccity.com.
Fantastic. Well, Staci, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us some really fantastic information. I'm sure groups are just going to be, you know, building their itineraries and stuff for the next year, next couple of years. So we wanted to get this information out to them as quickly as we possibly can. And we hope that you all have as fantastic time in Nashville as all of us have had when we've gone to visit. So, and make sure to contact Staci if you need more information. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Staci.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Stevie. Really nice seeing both of you.
Good seeing you.
You too. Thanks, Staci.
Bye.
Well, just a reminder, Destination Dispatch happens every Thursday. And we'd love to go to different group-friendly destinations and hear what they have to offer for your groups. As you can see, there are some really great and exciting things in store for you in Nashville and the surrounding area of Nashville. So make sure you do go to visit Nashville, Tennessee, as well as our Thursday Destination Dispatch. We also, on Tuesdays, do GTO Coach and Go. For our member community, what we do is on Tuesdays, we go over certain aspects of our system, whether we're doing some updates, whether we have new things that we're launching, or whether we're just taking you through some reminders and some refreshers as to how the system can work efficiently for you. That's at Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And as well as that, all of these can be seen on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you ring the bell, again, you'll be notified anytime that we do have new content on our YouTube channel. And make sure to like that Facebook page and follow us on LinkedIn as well. If you need more information on GTO, you can go to our website, grouptravelodyssey.com. You can contact myself, you can contact Stevie, you can contact Kara, Kara, at gtonetwork.com. I'm Jim at gtonetwork.com. You can contact Keith at gtonetwork.com as well. So make sure to contact us if you need any more information. And Stevie, what can you tell us about your podcast, Destinations Beyond Expectations?
Absolutely. Destinations Beyond Expectations is the podcast designed for students of travel. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, really anywhere you can find podcasts. You're going to be able to find Destinations Beyond Expectations. You can also check out the website, dbetravel.com. There's actually some maintenance happening with that, some exciting updates happening to the website. So go ahead and check that out and give it a listen and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your feedback. So
dbetravel.com.
Yeah.
Excellent. Where are you going? Do you have a new one tomorrow?
No, actually, no. Typically every Friday there are new episodes, but because I was working on the website, no episode this week, but in the coming weeks, yes, every Friday there will be an episode. This past week, we went to the islands, U.S. Virgin Islands, to look at a couple of those and see which one's the best fit for you, because they're really different islands. They're not the same as people might think. So new episodes every Friday.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, Stevie, thank you so much for joining in again today. It's always great to spend Thursdays with you. And next week we should have Keith back with us as well, hopefully. And so the terrible trio will be back together again. And we want to thank everybody for watching. And that's it for this week. Take care.
See ya.
Thank you for watching this episode of Destination Dispatch. We invite you to stay connected with Group Travel Odyssey on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and be sure to check out more of our media, including GTO Coach and Go and the Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast. Please visit our website, grouptravelodyssey.com, where you can learn more about GTO and request a demo. Group Travel Odyssey, business without boundaries.